Hello, everybody. Hi. Along with being a queer Vietnamese American, I am also a Gemini. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important for me to stand in my truth and admit that. Any other Geminis out here? Yes. There's so many of us. What about Leos? Stay away from me. Okay. I'm actually gonna start with this first poem, which is about a really painful experience that happens to me pretty often. Yeah, okay. This poem is called Ode to the Pubic Hair Stuck in My Throat. O diligent survivor, clinging to the edge of a chasm, little tickle, little wire picking open the doors, illuminating the corners of my body I didn't know could swell with touch. Blessed touch, I guess. Its round noise. A little brown body coiling in the middle of that soft pink alley. How lonely it must be to come from desire but end where light ends. Son of the floorless prayer. Son of the oh horizon, remind me what it's like to speak without a white man flickering in my throat. Oh small equator, making every story a ruined portrait. Bless the fault line beyond my reach. Little fracture in my speech. Little secret I keep trying to cough up, but cause my mother to worry and raise her small hands to my forehead. Gong Nam, bless also my mother, her perfect temperature, her concern the only language we have to say sorry, bless language, its impossible walls, its flexible agony, a thin line I keep tripping over, oh little thread undoing the hem of my body, but wait, bless also my body, how it rejects the unfamiliar, convulsing, conversing with itself, excising, evicting, cutting down that rope bridge, rolling the debris into a question mark on my tongue. So who here has a name that people fuck up a lot? Yeah. Me and all of my cousins have these basic ass names that people fuck up a lot. And I tried to write this for them. So all of my cousins also have my grandmother's birthday tattooed on them. I don't have the heart to tell them that they got it wrong. Yeah. December 31st, 1918 was just a date the government assigned my grandmother when she came to America. My grandmother did not know when her story began. My grandmother, who only went back to Vietnam to put fresh flowers on graves. My grandmother, who knew hunger best, divided between 10 siblings. When I say hunger, I mean the lack of more. When I complain about growing up lonely as an only child, I'm also complaining about a full stomach and a mouth that has stopped watering. My grandmother had 6 brothers and 4 sisters. But none of the girls were given names, only numbers. My grandmother's name is Bay, which in America sounds like a pretty name, right? But when translated back to Vietnamese, it means 7. My grandmother's name is 7. 1. My grandmother's memory went before she did. At first, it was just an orchestra of faucets hissing until morning, and then it was the smoke alarms, and then it was night. She was found wandering along the highway, and when asked where she was going, she just said, home. 2. Once, when I was younger, I held a litter of newborn bunnies. I named each one. When I returned them to their cage, I watched their mother kill and eat each one because they gave off some strange scent, because they smelled like me. 3. Towards the end, when my grandmother became no longer a woman with sun in her skin, when the hospital lights stripped her of all her color, when she became no longer a woman that sang lullabies that harmonized to explosions, instead had her breath coiled into a cacophony of tubes, she kept on calling out for home. Home. I still don't know which home she meant. For the last time I went to Vietnam, I half expected the ground to open and swallow me whole. I know I am lucky enough to have been loved by her, even though I smell nothing like gunpowder. 5, because I fled a house that was not on fire. I belong nowhere near the ocean. Because I know nothing of war, I will not use metaphors that do not belong to me. My parents' divorce is not a war. My grief is not a war. My sadness does not shrapnel. My sadness does not flatten an entire village. Sadness is not a war. War is war. 6, somewhere, not here. There's a house that does not look like a body. Somewhere, not here. My grandmother recognizes my scent as not her own and then gouges out my eyes. 7. I was born once. I was held and given a name once. And how many times have I wished for something easier? Something that didn't dirty a white mouth. And how many times have I looked for my name in gift shop keychains and walked away blank or upset or walked away wearing someone else's face? So a lot of my work, I try to combat my family's homophobia, but also combat the narrative that all immigrant families are homophobic. My mother, who came to America with an expectation, and her life has not turned out the way she expected it. And despite our relationship, despite our differences, she is the person in my life I understand the most. All my life, I've watched my mother contemplate an exit, hovering between a conversation and a doorway. Her sleep is medicated and rich. I imagine in her dreams she is finally tall with laughter. I feel most like my mother's son when I am lonely, a child again, dragged by her to a party I enjoyed but then stopped enjoying, which is a cowardly way of saying, I cannot kill myself until my mother dies. If joy is what tethers us to this life, then most days my mother and I float above the pavement, tied together by the fraying threads of her nightgown. All my life, I've bitten at the knots of my solitude. No one wants to be alive when they are forgotten. When she is gone, who will call my name? I feel furthest from wanting to live when I think of joy as some kind of destination. A 2-story house around the corner where the children play in the yard. And I guess by staying, I'm saying I want to live in this house, but I'm not. I'm saying one day, I want things to be easier. Too often, I don't tell people I love, I am sad. I don't think that's something they'd want to hear. Because they love me. Because I don't want them to think that the currency of their tenderness isn't enough when it has been and will be again. Well, if I'm being completely honest, today is hard. Today I miss people, dead and alive, far and near. I miss them all. But I should mention hope, since hope is what disarms the bomb when the city clutches their children goodnight. The red wire, blue wire optimism of my mother's voice when she says, I don't need friends, just you, and in me still a child refusing to accept the terms of her mercy. And how many times have I heard, you'll understand when you're older? Or how many times have I heard, we're all gonna die one day, boring hopelessness, clearing that table before we eat, which is fine. Who needs a last meal? Who needs a good reason to leave the party before things get weird? So maybe that's hope. Maybe hope is stopping the story before it's over, before the inevitable, messy end, O monger of the broken records, O monger of the early birthday present. Push me from this highway overpass, but let's leave the story there. Let's leave the body whole in midair, illuminated by oncoming headlights, a tiny song, a pixel in the pixelated mouth of hope, or whatever it is that propels us through that door of tomorrow. And since there was no key, I guess I'll swallow the door.